So we're going to be starting Leviticus Chapter 1 from the Septuagint, okay? And let me just put it here on the shared screen here. Okay. Leviticus 1. All right. Okay, so here we go. We have the Samaritan Pentateuch. Put that parallel with the Septuagint there. Not the RV, SPE. Okay. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Let's see.
Burnt offering.
Yep, the burnt offering. So these are going to be multiple different types of offerings we're going to be reading about today. The first one's the burnt offering, but we're also going to be going through the peace offerings, transgression offerings, sin offerings. We're going to be going through all of them. So let's see here. Page 115 starts in my translation here. Okay. Leviticus chapter 1. And Yahuwah called Moshe and spoke to him from the tent of witness, saying, sorry about that. Let me get my microphone in my hand here. If any person from among you presents a gift for Yahuwah, then you will present your gift from the livestock and from the ox and from your sheep. If his gift is a whole burnt offering from among the oxen, which just to explain, a whole burnt offering means you don't eat any of it. It is wholly burnt and consumed by the fire. From among the oxen, he will offer an unblemished male. He will bring it to the gate of the tent of witness as an acceptable offering to him before Yahuwah. And he will place his hand on the head of the approved burnt offering for himself in order to make atonement for him. And they will slay the young bull in the presence of Yahuwah. And the sons of Aaron the priest, they will present its blood. They will pour its blood out all around against the altar that is beside the entrances of the tent of witness. And when they have flayed the whole burnt offering, they will cut it into pieces according to its limbs. And the sons of Aaron the priest will place fire on the altar and pile wood on the fire. And the sons of Aaron the priest will pile up the divided parts of the sacrifice and its head and its fat on top of the wood that is on the fire, which is on the top of the altar. They will wash its internal organs. The priest will place everything on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a sacrifice, a sweet-smelling odor to Yahuwah. And if his gift to Yahuwah is from the sheep or from the lambs or the young kids, he will present an unblemished male for a whole burnt offering. He will place his hand on its head, and they shall slay it on the sides of the altar facing the north. In the presence of Yahuwah, and the sons of Aaron the priest will pour out its blood against the altar all around. And they will divide it according to its limbs and its head and fat. And the priest will pile them up on the wood that is on the fire, which is on the altar, and they will wash its entrails and its feet with water. And the priest will present everything and will place it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a sacrifice, a sweet-smelling odor to Yahuwah. If you present a burnt offering from the birds as a gift to Yahuwah, then he will bring his gift from the turtle doves or from the pigeons, and will place it on the altar and squeeze out its blood onto the base of the altar, and will remove the crop together with its feathers and cast it away from the side of the altar toward the east onto the place for the ashes, and he will break it off from the wings but not divide it. And the priest will place it on the altar on the wood that is on the fire. It is a burnt offering, a sacrifice, a sweet-smelling odor to Yahuwah. Chapter 2. When a person presents a gift as a sacrifice to Yahuwah, his gift will be fine wheat flour. He will pour olive oil on it. So this is the grain offering.
Right.
And he will place frankincense on it. It is a sacrifice. And then he will take it to the sons of Aaron, the priest. When the priest has taken a handful from it of the fine wheat flour together with olive oil, and all of its, sorry about that, gotta turn the page here, all of its frankincense. Then the priest will place its memorial portion on the altar, a sacrifice, sweet smelling odor unto Yahuwah. The remaining share of the sacrifice belongs to Aaron and his sons, as most set apart from the offerings of Yahuwah. And if someone presents a grain offering as a sacrifice baked from frankincense, a gift to Yahuwah, made from fine wheat flour, he shall bring unleavened cakes kneaded with oil, olive oil, and unleavened thin broad cakes, basted all over with olive oil. And when your gift is a sacrifice from a baking tray, it is fine wheat flour kneaded with olive oil, unleavened, and you shall break it into pieces in your olive oil on it. It is a sacrifice to Yahuwah. And if it is a sacrifice from earth, your gift shall be prepared with olive oil. And then he will bring his sacrifice, which he has prepared from these various offerings to Yahuwah, and he will bring it. And shall prepare. Then he will bring his sacrifice, which he has prepared from these various offerings to Yahuwah, and he will bring it to the priest. And when he has approached the altar, the priest will take some of the offering as its memorial portion, and the priest will place it on the altar, a burnt offering, a sweet smelling odor to Yahuwah. And what is left over from the sacrifice is for Aaron and his sons, most set apart from the burnt offerings of Yahuwah. You will not make any sacrifice that you present to Yahuwah with leaven, for you will not offer any leaven or any honey from it as a burnt. You will not offer them to Yahuwah as for you will not offer any leaven or any honey from it as a burnt sacrifice to Yahuwah. You will offer them to Yahuwah as a gift of first fruits, but they will not be presented on the altar as a sweet smelling odor to Yahuwah. Every sacrifice gift of yours will be flavored with salt. You will not keep back the salt of Yahuwah's covenant from your gifts. You will present salt to Yahuwah, your Elohim, on each of your offerings. And if you present a sacrifice of first fruits to Yahuwah, tender, newly roasted grain. I know your Masoretic text is going to say green ears, which to me makes no logical sense because they have to be ripened to be picked. So that makes no logical sense. Obviously, new grain makes a lot more sense. Septuagint grain. Okay.
Yeah, mine says new grain.
Really? So the NIV went with the Septuagint. Interesting.
Yeah, they do sometimes.
Interesting. Hold kernels ground for Yahuwah, so you will offer the sacrifice of the first fruits, and you will pour oil over it, and you will place frankincense on it. It is a sacrifice, and the priest will offer its memorial portion taken from whole ground kernels together with its olive oil and all its frankincense. It is a burnt offering to Yahuwah. Okay, we're going to continue here. The peace offering. If his gift is a sacrifice of peace to Yahuwah, and if he brings it forward from his oxen, whether male or female, he shall bring an unblemished animal before Yahuwah. Then he will place his hands on the head of the gift and slaughter it before Yahuwah beside the entrances of the tent of witness. Then the sons of Aaron the priest will pour out its blood all around and against the altar of the whole burnt offerings. And they will bring a burnt offering to Yahuwah from the sacrifice of peace, the fat that is covering the belly, indeed all the fat that is over the belly. And he will remove the two kidneys along with the fat that is attached to them, that is at the loins, and the lobe that is on the liver, together with the kidneys. And so the sons of Aaron the priest will present these items on the altar on the whole burnt offerings, on the wood that is on the fire on the altar. It is a burnt offering, sweet smelling odor to Yahuwah. If his gift is from the sheep, male or female, he shall bring it without blemish as a sacrifice of peace to Yahuwah. If he presents a lamb as his gift, he will present it before Yahuwah. Then he will place his hands on the head of his gift and will slaughter it beside the entrance of the tent of witness. Then the sons of Aaron, the priest, will pour out its blood upon the altar all around, and he will bring a burnt offering to Elohim from the sacrifice of peace, the fat and the loins without blemish. He will remove it along with the muscles of the loins and the fat of the belly, both of the kidneys and the fat that is on them, on the thighs, and the lobe that is on the liver with the kidneys. When he has stripped these off, the priest will offer them on the altar as a sweet smelling odor, a burnt offering to Yahuwah. Okay. Hold on, everyone. Someone's trying to get in here, so let me admit someone here. There we go. All right, so we're at 12 of chapter 3 here. But if his gift from the goats, when he will present it before Yahuwah, and he will place his hands on its head, they shall slaughter in the presence of the entrance of the tent of witness, and the sons of Aaron the priest will pour the blood out on the altar all around, and he will offer up the burnt offering to Yahuwah, the fat covering up the belly and all the fat that is attached to the belly, and he will remove both of the kidneys and all the fat that is on them that is on the loins and the lobe of the liver together with the kidneys, and the priest will offer a burnt offering on the altar as a sweet smelling odor to Yahuwah, all the fat that goes to Yahuwah. All the fat goes to Yahuwah. This is a law for returning throughout your generations and all your dwelling places. You will not eat any fat or any blood. Now, I want to speak on this before we go to chapter 4. In context, this is not saying you cannot eat fat. Okay.
I'm with them. I like the fat too.
I'm just saying. This is talking about the fat of the sacrifices. Okay. In context, this is talking about sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's not saying that you can't eat the fat of a steak. Okay.
Good.
Just saying, if we look at context and we don't take one verse out of context here, we don't isolate one verse out of the whole chapter. If we read the whole chapter, what is the chapter talking about? Is it talking about animals that you just kill to eat, or is it talking about sacrifices? It's talking about sacrifices. So we got to make sure we don't take stuff out of context, because we can easily take one little verse at the end of a chapter and take it out of context.
And run with it. Yeah.
And run with it. So let's not do that. Okay.
You just drove on the highway.
So we're about to start chapter 4 of Leviticus. So yeah, go ahead, Sister Sadia. I see your hands raised.
You can hear me. Yes. Okay. So I want to know what is because when he says he puts up the entrails, right? The kidneys, the organs.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says it's a sweet smelling aroma. Okay. What is the kidney significant? What's the significance of the kidneys and the liver? There's got to be something to what he says is sweet to him.
When I think about it, I think about that there's a lot of similarities between this and the Passover lamb. When you look at the Passover lamb, right, it says, do not remove the entrails, do not do. In a way, we are the entrails and all that cannot be removed from the lamb before you cook it. So that's all included. So when I look at this and compare it to the Passover meal, it's kind of similar, and it's most likely pointing to Messiah, is most likely why he's talking about a pleasing aroma, a pleasing sacrifice. You know, most likely spiritually, it's pointing to Messiah. It's pointing to the lamb of the Passover, talking about the entrails and all that. That's what I take away from it. A lot of these sacrifices point to Yahusha, like the goat, the Zazel goat, and all that. The Day of Atonement, a lot of those sacrifices point to Yahusha. Paul in Hebrews talks about once a year the Levites had to cleanse the sins of the people. They would have to do a certain sacrifice once a year to cleanse the sins of the people, which either most people would believe Paul's referring to the Day of Atonement, or he's referring to another feast that they would have to, all the people's sins would have to be cleansed by a certain sacrifice, certain animal sacrifice. And he parallels that now we have a so much better sacrifice with Messiah, that he went in once, not once a year, once for all,
Right.
and took away our sins permanently. Versus the Levitical priesthood, which we're reading about right now, which constantly every year the priest would have to cleanse. He would actually give us a separate sacrifice for his sins and his house. Like the sins of the Levites, they would have to cleanse themselves with a sacrifice, and then would have to do a sacrifice for the people. And in Hebrews, Paul talks about that. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. So yeah, Paul pretty much breaks down the differences of the two priesthoods and why the Melchizedek is so much better. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Well, our thought. So when the animal is killed with everything in it, that means intestines and all. Back then, they ate free and clear from the land, which would be nothing but grain or grass, and people buy shots of grass to drink. But I was thinking that maybe too, it's part of like an herb, spices, or like it has its own flavoring, because they did not eat unpure. They ate clean, the animals at that time. So that's
Yeah.
just a thought that came into my mind, because that stuff's gonna, I think it bursts inside of so much heat if you're cooking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's definitely a significance with keeping all the stuff in there and all that. There's obviously a significance to your point. I also believe what really pointed to Messiah, other than that animal sacrifice we just read about in the whole burnt offerings and the burnt offerings, what more was points to Messiah to me was the grain offerings we read about in chapter 2, and how it talks about do not omit the salt, right, of the covenant. Well, what does Yahusha say to us? What are we?
We're the salt
Of the earth. So when a lot of these sacrifices point to him, even the grain offerings point to him. So I think it's important to take, when we look at certain verbiage in these chapters, we should really remember certain stuff like that, like the salt of the earth, the fact that Yahuwah is here to not omit salt from the grain offering. So to me, that's pretty big there.
Thinking about these organs, I have a thought. The main reason we have some of these organs is to purify what's going through our body. We have kidneys to take out the impurities of the urine that floats through our bodies. So I'm just thinking, versus purity versus, nasty stuff that we got to get rid of. And this is how he created us. So I don't know, maybe that has something to do with why he wanted those entrails to stay in. I don't know. I know all of our organs have most of them, I should say. We do have organs that have really no real function, and we can live very well without them. But most of the major organs have a real purpose.
And even when I think about the other parts of the sacrifices we just read about, the sprinkling of the blood, I'm pretty sure that has a spiritual significance to Yahusha. The blood is atoning them. The blood of the sacrifice is atoning them. It talks about the sprinkling of the blood that the Levites had to do. So there's a lot of parallels to Yahusha in these sacrifices. So we're going to continue here and go to chapter 4. This is dealing with the sin offering here. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the sons of Yasharal, saying, when a person sins before Yahuwah unintentionally with respect, which basically means unwillfully,
Mm-hmm.
to the ordinances of Yahuwah that is not binding to do, but does one of them. If the anointed high priest sins, that the people sin. See. So it's even tougher in the Levitical priesthood. If the high priest sins, it will cause the other people to sin because he's supposed to be the leader.
Example. Yeah.
And for his sin that he has committed, he will present an unblemished young bull. So exactly what Paul's talking about in Hebrews. From among the bulls to Yahuwah about his sin, meaning about the Levite sin. And he will present the young bull at the entrance of the tent of witness before Yahuwah and place his hand on the head of the young bull in the presence of Yahuwah and slaughter the young bull before Yahuwah. And after taking some of the blood of the young bull, the anointed priest whose hands have been ratified will carry it on the tent of witness. What's interesting is it keeps mentioning in the Septuagint the anointed priest. What I find interesting is that Mashiach means the anointed one. And that's Hebrew for Messiah. So I find it interesting. It keeps talking about the anointed priest. The anointed priest has to do this, and I just find it interesting. There seems to be a parallel with Yahusha with that wording. Whose hands have been ratified will carry it on the tent of witness, and the priest will dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times down along the set apart veil before Yahuwah. What did Yahusha do when he died? What happened? The veil on the temple on earth, not in heaven, the veil on the temple on earth was rent. So I'm just saying there's a lot of connections with Yahusha here. Okay, so it talks about, and he will pour out the young bull's blood at the base of the altar. Hold on, let me make sure I'm not jumping ahead here. Yeah. Verse 7, and the priest will place some of the blood of the young bull on the horns of the altar for the incense of composition. The altar before Yahuwah that is located inside the tent of witness, and he will pour out all the young bull's blood at the base of the altar for whole burnt offerings, which is located at the entrance of the tent of witness. And he will remove all the fat of the young bull, again, context of the fat, okay, for the sin offering. The fat that covers the entrails and all the fat that is on the entrails and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is attached to them, and that is located on the loins and the lobe that is on the liver, together with the kidneys. He will remove it all. The way you remove it from the young bull, the sacrifice of peace offering, the priest shall offer it up on the burnt offering altar. Also the skin of the young bull and all its flesh, together with the head and the extremities and the belly and the dung. And they will carry the whole young bull outside the encampment, outside the camp. Where was Yahusha killed? He was killed at Golgotha. He was not killed. He had to be killed outside the camp, okay, to a clean place where they poured out the ashes and will burn it on wood with fire. It will be burned up at the outflow of the ashes. And if the entire community of Yasharal unintentionally ignorant and the matter escapes the eyes of the congregation, and they do one of all the commandments of Yahuwah, that shall not be done. Meaning if they transgress any of the commandments and they go astray, and the sin which they sinned by it becomes known to them, then for their sin the community will lead in an unblemished young bull from the herd and lead it forward to the entrances of the tent of witness. And the elders of the congregation will place their hands on the head of the young bull before Yahuwah, and they shall slaughter the young bull in the presence of Yahuwah. And the anointed priest will carry some of the blood of the young bull into the tent of witness. And the priest will dip his finger into the blood of the young bull and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahuwah in the front of the veil of the set apart place. And the priest will place some of the blood on the horns of the altar of the incense of the composition, which is before Yahuwah, which is beside the tent of witness. Then he will pour out all the blood at the base of the altar of burnt offerings that are at the entrance of the tent of witness. And he will remove all the fat from it and will offer it up on the altar. And he will do to the young bull the way he did to the sin offering bull. So it will be done, and the priest will make atonement for them. and the sin will be forgiven for them. They will carry the young bull outside the encampment, and they will burn the young bull the way they burned the first young bull. It is a sin offering of the assembly. And if a ruler sins and unintentionally does one of all the commandments of Yahuwah their Elohim that shall not be done, and sins, commits a trespass, and his sin which he has sinned by it becomes known to him, he will bring his gift, a young he-goat from the goats, an unblemished male. He will place his hand on the head of the goat, and they shall slaughter it in the location where they slaughtered the whole burnt offerings before Yahuwah. It is a sin offering. Then the priest will put some of the blood of the sin offering on his finger on the horns of the altar for the whole burnt offerings. He will pour all of its blood out at the base of the altar for burnt offerings, and he will offer up all its fat on the altar, just as the fat of the sacrifice of peace offering. And the priest will make atonement for him from his sin, and will be forgiven for him. And if one person from the people of the land sins unintentionally by doing one of all the commandments of Yahuwah which shall not be done, and commits a trespass, and his sin which he has sinned by becomes known to him, then he will bring a she-goat from the goats, and he will bring an unblemished female for his sin which he has sinned, and he will place his hand on the head of his sin offering, and they shall slaughter the she-goat for the sin in the place where they slaughter the whole burnt offerings. And the priest will take some of the blood on his finger and will put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings, and he will pour all of its blood out at the base of the altar, and he will remove all the fat the way he removes the fat from a sacrifice of peace, and the priest will offer it up on the altar as a sweet-smelling odor to Yahuwah, and the priest will make atonement for him, and it will be forgiven him. But if he presents a sheep as his gift for a sin offering, he will bring it as an unblemished female, and he will place his hand on the head of the sin offering. They shall slaughter it in a place where they slaughter the whole burnt offerings, and the priest, taking some of the blood of the sin offering on his finger, will put it on the horns of the altar for the whole burnt offering. He will pour out all the blood at the base of the altar for the whole burnt offering. He will remove all its fat, the way the fat of the sheep is removed from the sacrifice of peace. And the priest will place it on the altar of the whole burnt offering of Yahuwah, and the priest will make atonement for him about the sin that he committed, and it will be forgiven him. What I find interesting is the peace offering is a sheep or a lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it interesting. We look at the prophecy of Isaiah in chapter, 53, says he is the chastisement of our peace. The chastisement of our peace was upon him.
Right.
Okay, so let me see if I can find that verse for you here. He practiced no iniquity. Okay, he was sinless. And the Septuagint is a lot different, just to show you guys, a lot different than the Masoretic here. I believe this is the Father talking to the Son here. In verse 10 of the Septuagint says, Isaiah 53, Yahuwah also is pleased to purge him from his stroke. If you can give an offering for sin, your soul shall see a long-lived seed. I believe the Father's asking the Son a question. If you think you can do it, if you're ready to do this, you'll have a long-lived seed, which, the seed of Messiah, seed of Abraham, Galatians 3:29. So I believe that's a prophetic conversation between the Father and the Son there. Yahuwah also is pleased to take away from the travail of his soul, to show him light and to form him with understanding, to declare righteous the righteous one who serves many well. Yahusha said, I came to be a servant, not to be served. Therefore he shall inherit many, he shall divide the spoils of the mighty, because his soul was delivered to death, and he was numbered among the transgressors, the two thieves. And he bore the sins of many and he was delivered because of their iniquities. Okay, so let me see if I can find where it talks about the chastisement. It talks about dumb as a lamb before the shearers. Let's see here. Here we go. Sorry for taking so long. Here we go. Isaiah 53:5. But he was wounded on the account of our sins. He was bruised because of our lawlessnesses. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his bruises we were healed. So I believe that the peace offering directly is paralleled with Yahusha being the chastisement of our peace. So when I'm always reading about the peace offerings, I can't help but think about Yahusha. So the fact that the peace offerings were usually a lamb, sometimes a goat. I know sometimes it's other animals like a bull or something, but usually I think of a lamb when I think of the peace offering. So anyway, moving on. We're going to go back to Leviticus here, starting chapter 5 here. Okay, so let me just get it there. All right. And if someone sins and hears the sound of an oath, so this is talking about like, swearing an oath before Yahuwah. And this witness either has seen or is aware of it. If he does not speak out, he will inquire guilt. If he doesn't keep, basically if he doesn't report something, if he doesn't report his neighbor sinning and not keeping an oath, he will be guilty. Or a person whoever touches any unclean thing, either a carcass of an animal or something killed by an unclean beast, or the carcass of dead animals, or unclean things that are abominable, or carcasses of unclean livestock. And I know this verse is very confusing. This verse, I've seen people say, see, we can't have pets either. I actually had a conversation with one of my brothers from the fellowship this week about this and how easy it is to misunderstand this verse in Leviticus 5:2 to say that you can't even have a pig as a pet because it's saying that, you can't touch any unclean animal even when it's living. But I'm going to show you how the context of this we see later on is that you are not to touch the carcass. We're commanded not to touch the carcass of a dead animal. Of unclean animals. It's not that we can't have pigs for pets or that we can't have dogs for pets. It's that we can't touch their dead carcass. And
that's what makes them unclean, right?
Well, no, they're unclean by themselves, Mom. But what I'm trying to say, it's not a sin to touch an unclean animal when it's alive. There's no commandment that says that. There's a commandment that says you can't touch their dead body, but there's not a commandment that says you can't touch them when they're living. And we know this for a fact. We can go through the Brit Hadashah and show how the interpretation that it's talking about a dead carcass in Leviticus 5:2 here would go along with the New Testament. Most people don't know this, but John the Baptist, what type of hair did he wear on himself? Camel's hair. So think about it. If it's a sin to even touch an unclean animal when they're living, would it be a sin for him to wear camel's hair? So let's really think about the context here. So the context has to be that it's talking about a dead animal.
Yeah, you would know the Torah, I'm sure.
Why would John the Baptist wear camel's hair especially from a living camel? Let's say he took it from a camel while it's alive and then put it on his head. If it's a sin to do that, why would he do that?
Yeah.
So again, I think it's important to look at stuff in context. Right here, it says, Leviticus 11 gives us the context here. Everyone among the wild beast that moves upon his feet, which goes on all four, is unclean to you. Everyone that touches their dead bodies, notice that it says dead bodies, shall be unclean till evening.
Can I ask a question that might be slightly, it's related.
Okay.
If you go to a funeral, right, and you see people walking up to the casket and,
oh, they're unclean.
Putting hand on the body, or I've even seen people kissing the body.
Oh, no, not even, Mom. Even before that, if you go into a room where there's a dead body, you're unclean, according to Torah. Okay. You don't even have to touch the body. So like if we know we're and it's ceremonial uncleanness. You're not sinning by going to a funeral, okay? You're just ritually unclean for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Yahuwah says, and the actual commandment says if you go into a tent where a dead body is, you are ritually unclean because you walked into that tent for a certain amount of time. I don't know the exact amount of time because I haven't read that verse in a while, but I know there is a commandment that references that. Maybe Brother Dennis or someone else might have some insight of the exact time you're ritually unclean or ceremoniously unclean for. But just to clarify, too, uncleanness does not always mean sin. There's in Scripture you're going to see you're unclean till sunset, unclean till sunset. That is ritual uncleanness. That is ceremonial uncleanness and does not have to do with you sinning. Now, in this case, this is a sinful uncleanness touching a dead body of an unclean animal because Yahuwah actually commands you not to do that. He actually says, do not do that. So that's where this type of uncleanness that we're talking about in Leviticus 11 is directed to sin because it's a commandment not to touch a dead body of pigs or dogs or whatever. But there's no commandment in the Torah that says you can't have them as pets and while they're living, pet them. There's no commandment that says you can't do that. Go ahead, Sister Marissa. I see your hands up.
Hey, didn't you hear that John the Baptist actually had dreadlocks, and that's why they were calling it camel's hair?
No, I mean, from what I'm seeing in the New Testament, it's camel's hair. He literally wore on his head camel's hair.
That's what it says.
Yeah, I don't see where they could get dreadlocks from in that word. So that's that's a whole Black Hebrew Israel.
Yeah, because dreadlocks is like camel's hair.
I don't think.
No, dreadlocks are not like camel's hair. I mean, camel's hair is camel's hair. That's from a camel. The dreadlocks would not look like camel's hair. Camel's hair don't. I mean, camels. If you look at the hair of a camel, it's totally different than human hair. So I don't know where they could get that from. I think.
Why would he take camel's hair and put it on his head though? I don't. Well, I don't get that.
That's what the text says, sis. It doesn't say dreadlocks, and I think people that assert that is they want to prove a certain ethnicity were the original Israelites, in my opinion. That's what they're trying to prove. So they're trying to twist things.
That's where that's coming from? Yeah,
that's where it's coming from. It's I'm sorry to say, but the only people that tell me that are from the Black Hebrew Israelite camps. And I'm not trying to be facetious or anything, but that's a fact that most of the people that preach that are from those camps that want to find little connections here and there to say all the Israelites were black.
Yeah.
So he had dreadlocks. See, he was black, so it's like that type of thing, which is not true because not only black people have dreadlocks.
That's true too.
So that, again, that's kind of like a weak argument, in my opinion. That
it's reverse racism.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get on that topic.
Oh, yeah,
I was just trying to explain why people preach the idea that it's not camel's hair, it's dreadlocks. It's a preconceived bias to prove something else. And so, anyway, go ahead, Brother Joshua. I see your hands up.
Nowhere does it say he wore it on his head. Matthew 3:4 says, and the same Yehukanan had his raiment, or another word for raiment is garment, had his garment of camel's hair and a leather girdle about his loins. And then Mark, the only other verse is Mark 1:6. And it says, and Yehukanan was clothed with camel's hair and with the girdle of a skin about his loins. So it doesn't say he wore it on his head.
There you go.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, I just assumed that he had it on his hair, had it on his head. That's where he would wear it. So maybe he wore it as like, clothing.
Yeah.
A lot of Native Americans would do that too. They would take, different parts of the animal they would kill, even though it would be bad to take, stuff that of a killed animal, but I'm pretty sure John would have took the hair from the camel when it was still living. That's the reason I brought that up, was the fact that as long as he would have took the hair from the camel while the camel's alive and not dead, he's not sinning.
He knew
So-
Torah. There's no way he was.
So, oh yeah, his dad was a priest.
Yeah.
For goodness sakes, his dad's a priest. He's not going to do that. You know, so I think it's important to look. That's the reason I brought this up, viewers and listeners, because to understand Leviticus 5:2 correctly, we got to look at all of what Scripture is saying. And obviously, there's Yahuwah is making a distinction here. Do not touch a dead body of those animals. But as far as having pets, I mean, there's even a verse, I think, somewhere in Ecclesiastes or Proverbs talking about a man and how he should treat his beast, how he should treat his pet. So pets are actually mentioned in the Bible. So definitely having a dog as a pet's not a sin. Having a pig as a pet's not a sin. You know, having horses pets, you know, horses are unclean animals. You just have a problem though when they die. You kind of gotta figure something out there.
Yeah,
you either gotta have a Gentile, you know, I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with that in my opinion. Having a Gentile carrying their dead body to bury it. I mean, we can't touch it, but you know, there is separation between us and non-believers in the Torah. There's constant separation, and you know. Yahuwah talks about an animal that dies of itself. We can't eat, but we can give it to a Gentile. So I would think Yahuwah would allow us, you know, to ask a Gentile if they don't mind moving it, especially if they're not in covenant with Yahuwah, to ask them, you know, hey, do you mind burying this for me? I can't touch it because of my faith, you know. I don't know. That's just something I thought of, you know, a possibility. And even farmers have different implements, so you're not directly touching the carcass. Like they have these pitchfork things that they can move the animal dives.
We buried our dog in the backyard.
Yeah. Well,
We wrapped him in a shirt.
Yeah, you didn't know, Mom.
No, my mother didn't either. So
you know, that's just ignorance. You know, that's all that is. That's a lot of people don't know about the laws of uncleanness and stuff like that. So anyway, that's a good point you brought up, Brother Joshua. It doesn't mention him wearing it on his head. That's a very good point. Let's see here. Leviticus Chapter 5 says, and if someone sins and hears the sound of an oath, and this witness either has seen or is aware of it, if he does not speak out, he will, or a person whoever touches any unclean thing or carcass of an animal, something killed by an unclean wild beast, or carcasses of dead animals, or unclean things that are abominable, or carcasses of unclean livestock, or someone touches something unclean to humans of any kind of human uncleanness, which could be talking about a dead body, which he becomes polluted from touching it, yet he is not aware of it. But after this, he becomes aware of it and has committed a trespass. Or a lawless person who with his lips orders to do ill or to do good, corresponding to anything the person orders with an oath, and it escapes him before his eyes, and this person knows and sins concerning any one of these matters, and he will openly declare his sin concerning whatever he has sinned throughout that sin, and for what he trespassed against Yahuwah. For the sin which he sinned, he will bring a female from the sheep, a lamb for a she-goat or a she-goat from the goats for his sin offering, and the priest will make atonement for him concerning his sin that he committed, and the sin will be forgiven for him. But if his hand is not strong enough for a sheep, he will bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to Yahuwah concerning his sin that he sinned, one for his sin offering and one for a whole burnt offering, and he will bring them to the priest, and the priest will bring them forward for the offering, and the priest will wring off its head from its neck, but will not divide its body. Which actually goes all the way back to the covenant Abraham made with Yahuwah. Yahuwah actually had him do that, not divide the pigeon or the bird that he was sacrificing, if I remember correctly. And he will sprinkle some of the blood for the sin offering on the side of the altar. He will squeeze out the remaining blood onto the base of the altar, for it is a sin offering. He will treat the second as a whole burnt offering, as it is prescribed, and the will make for his sin that he committed, and it will be forgiven for him. But if his hand does not find a pair of turtle doves or 2 pigeon nestlings, then he will bring as his gift regarding whatever he committed a tenth of an ephah or fine wheat flour for a sin offering. He will not pour olive oil on it, nor will he place frankincense on it, because it is for a sin offering, and he will bring it to the priest, and the priest, having taken a handful from it, will place a memorial on the altar for burnt offerings. It is a sin offering to Yahuwah. And the priest will make atonement for him concerning his sin, that he sinned against one of these. It will be forgiven for him. A portion left over will be for the priest a sacrifice of fine wheat flour. And then Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, a person, when it escapes him by forgetfulness, and he sins inadvertently the set apart things of Yahuwah, he will bring his offering to Yahuwah, an unblemished ram from among the sheep. Its monetary value by the shekel of the set apart place by which he trespassed, and what he sinned against the set apart things he shall repay it, and he will add a fifth to it. Now, obviously, this would kind of hint that this is talking about the transgression of stealing, because he's returning something and he has to add a fifth to it. Let's see here, and he will give it to the priest, and the priest will make atonement for him, and the ram with the ram of the trespass, and it will be forgiven for him. And the person who sins does any one of the commandments of Yahuwah that is not binding to do, or he does not know, and he trespass and takes the sin, and he will bring an unblemished ram from the value of silver for a trespass to the priest. I find it interesting. It says the value of silver, and Yahusha was basically betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. So I kind of find that interesting. Let's see here. For a trespass to the priest, and the priest will make atonement for him for his ignorance, which he was unaware of, and he himself did not know, and it will be forgiven for him, for he has trespassed a trespass before Yahuwah. So in my opinion, when reading chapter 5, I see Yahusha all over this chapter too. The silver, the fact that he's making atonement for us. Let's see here. What's interesting too is I believe, Mom, when he was being circumcised, didn't Miriam or Joseph bring a sacrifice of like turtle doves? Isn't there something? I could have swore there's something in the New Testament.
It would be surprising, but I don't know for sure.
There's a sacrifice for the ransom of the firstborn, and I don't know. I would have to look back at the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, to see about that. But I remember someone saying that his mom had to bring turtle doves or pigeons as a sacrifice. All right. Anyway, while my mom tries to find that, I'm going to read the last chapter here, chapter 6. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, whenever a person sins with disregard, meaning willfully, overlooks the commandments of Yahuwah and lies in matters concerning his neighbor, so false witness with a deposit or about communion or plunder, or he deals unrighteously regarding something with his neighbor, or finds something lost, lies about it, and swears unrighteously about any one of all the things a person may do, so as to sin in these things, and it will be whenever someone sins and trespasses, he will return the plunder that he plundered, or his ill-gotten thing that he acquired unrighteously, or the deposit that was deposited with him, or the lost item that he found of anything that he swore falsely about, and he will repay the sum total, and he will add a fifth to it. Whomsoever it is, he will repay him on the day he is refuted. And for his trespass, he will bring a ram to Yahuwah from the flock, unblemished, of value, for what he trespassed against him. And the priest will make atonement for him in the presence of Yahuwah. It will be forgiven for him for one of all the things that he did and trespassed against him. Okay. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, charge Aaron and his son, saying, this is the law of the whole burnt offering. That is the whole burnt offering on its burning on the altar during the entire night until the morning. And the fire of the altar will burn on it. It will not be extinguished. And the priest will wear a linen tunic, and he will wear linen undergarments around his body. And he will remove the ashes of the burnt sacrifice which the fire has consumed the whole burnt offering from the altar, and will place them next to the altar. And he will take off his garment and will put on a different garment, and he will carry the ashes of the burnt sacrifice to a clean place outside the encampment. And the fire on the altar will be lit from it and will be not extinguished. And the priest will burn wood on it in the morning and will arrange the burnt offering on it, and he will place the fat of the peace offering on it. Excuse me. And the fire will burn on the altar forever. It will not be extinguished. This is the law of the sacrifice which the sons of Aaron will bring before Yahuwah, before the altar, and he will remove some of it with the fine wheat flour of the sacrifice, along with its olive oil, along with its frankincense, which are on the sacrifice, and he will offer a burnt offering on the altar, a sweet-smelling odor. It's memorial to Yahuwah, and Aaron and his sons will eat whatever is left over from it. It will be eaten unleavened in a set-apart place. They will eat it in the court of the tent of witness. It will not be baked with leaven. I have granted a portion of it to them from the burnt offerings of Yahuwah, most set apart, just like the sin offering, just like the trespass offering. Every priest will eat it. It is an eternal law throughout your generations from the burnt offerings of Yahuwah. Anyone who touches them will be set apart. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, this is the gift of Aaron and his sons, and they will present to Yahuwah on the day you anoint him the 10th of an ephah of fine wheat flour for sacrifice always, half of it early in the morning and half of it during the evening. It will be prepared on a baking tray with olive oil. He will bring it kneaded and rolled, a sacrifice of a sacrifice of pieces, a sacrifice of sweet-smelling odor to Yahuwah. The priest, the one of his sons anointed in his place, will present it an eternal law. The entirety will be consumed, and every sacrifice by a priest will be wholly burnt, and it will not be eaten. Okay, verse 24. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, this is the law of the sin offering in a place where they slaughter the whole burnt offering. They shall slaughter the animals for the sin offering before Yahuwah. They are most set apart. The priest who offers it will be eaten in a set apart place, the court of the tent of witness. Everyone who touches its flesh will become set apart. Whoever is sprinkled, and whoever is sprinkled on his garment from its blood, whoever was sprinkled from it will be washed in a set apart place. And the earthen vessel in which it was boiled will be broken. If it was boiled in a brass instrument, he shall rub it out and wash it thoroughly with water. Every male of the priests will eat them. They are most set apart to Yahuwah, and everything that is concerning the sin offering, whatever was brought from any of their blood into the tent of witness to make atonement in the set apart place, will not be eaten. It will be burned to ashes in the fire. And this is the law of the ram concerning the trespass offering. It is most set apart. In the place where they slaughter the whole burnt offering, they will slaughter the ram of the trespass offering in the presence of Yahuwah. And he will pour out the blood on the base of the altar all around. He will offer all its fat from it, and the loins, and all the fat that covers up the entrails, and all the fat that is on the entrails, and the two kidneys, and the fat that is on them, that is on the thighs and lobe on the liver, along with the kidneys, he will remove them, and the priest will offer them on the altar as a burnt offering for Yahuwah. It is a trespass offering. Every male of the priest will eat them. They will eat them in a set apart place. They are most set apart. Just like what concerns the sin offering, so is the one of the trespass, one law of them. The priest whoever makes atonement, it shall be his. The priest who offers a whole burnt offering for a person, the skin of the sacrifice of a burnt offering that he himself offers shall be his. And every offering that will be made in the oven, and every one that will be made on the earth or on a griddle, the priest who offers it, it is his. And every offering mixed with olive oil or unmixed shall belong to all the sons of Aaron, to each one equally.
2 turtle doves.
Okay. It was two turtle doves, right? Yeah.
Yep. In Luke. And it said that they fulfilled everything that was required by the law of Yahuwah.
And what chapter in Luke is that?
It is the 2nd chapter. I have a subtitle that says Yahusha presented in the temple, and it goes on to say on the 8th day, blah, 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 and then it goes into detail about the
So this would be like the sacrifice of the 8th day, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this would be the redeeming of the firstborn, because you got on the 8th day, then he's presented to be circumcised, and then also they got to give a sacrifice. So
yes.
I guess they couldn't afford like the bigger animals like we just read about, so they had to Yahuwah gives the allowance to present the turtle doves as a cheaper sacrifice if you can't afford. So very interesting. So that was Luke chapter 2 verse what?
24.
Okay. Yeah. And to give an offering according to what is said in the Torah of Yahuwah, a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. And see, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simon, and this man was righteous and dedicated, looking for the comforting of Yahusha, and the set-apart spirit was upon him. And it was revealed to him by the set-apart spirit that he would not see death before he sees the Messiah of Yahuwah. So very interesting. So Luke chapter 2 verse 24 shows that the turtle dove sacrifice is something that actually Mary and Joseph actually gave after the birth of Yahusha, which is interesting. So now we're going to end this recording. We're going to start a new one. We're going to go to Isaiah and we will be reading Isaiah 43 to 44 next. Please stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly, like within the next minute. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Shalom.